Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, Mr. President. Thank you so much for joining us, and to all the other legislators that are here in the room, and for every business person that takes the time out of their always too short a day. The value of your input is incredible and so worthy of our discussion and thought. In particular, obviously, the folks who joined us in the regulations discussion, that is now, the fact that we've had 13 of these summits, we can get frustrated, I guess, from time to time, but we recognize that it is a process, and we have made good progress in many things, as was mentioned by the President, that we've eliminated thousands of pages of regulation, and we have ongoing efforts to do that. We'll never finish. I think if we follow the advice of Carl Wadenston, lean, that it's never done. We have to keep looking and looking and looking to make sure that we have it. I want to go back to their comments this morning, Mr. President and Speaker. You didn't hear, but Tim Hebert suggested to us, and it rang in my head, that we find the right crazy idea. And as I was, in our session today, I was trying to listen for the right crazy idea. Fortunately, it's not up to me; it's up to you. But we want to put something forward. Our session discussed many issues. Some were general, some very specific. We have great concern for new rules that are impacting the child care industry, the conflicts between fire code and ADA. We have concern about zoning board quorum requirements on a local basis. We can work on all of those specific things. We will provide a list, because they're too numerous to go through in this short time that Mark will be telling me to sit down. We need to set priorities. Mr. Speaker, you said it well. It's about priorities. We need to reduce our outlier status. You've heard us say this year in and year out. And we made some progress with biweekly pay, but we're still an outlier. We need to move that further down the line. I think the changes that we made have shown that we are a responsible business community, and it hasn't been injurious to the workers or to the state to have made that change. We need to make more steps in that same direction. Our 18% interest rate on tax payments and such is something that we need to change, and not set it to a specific rate, but change it to something that it floats with an increase over the prevailing rates and so forth. And that's coming from someone who's not only a businessman but a town administrator, so I hope that means something. We can work on those specific issues, we will. And another is holiday flexibility. We've talked about this for years. We need to set a priority that it is important for us to allow the workforce of today to be able to work to modern criteria. We need to force education to be provided by the regulators. I've said it so many times, we need regulators to be turning the lights on for small business people as they walk in the dock, not stringing lines up in front of them. And it was mentioned earlier, the circumstance with the funeral home tax, that so many folks are being hit with $10,000 and $20,000 overdue payments and penalties that they had no idea that those circumstances were present and would have managed it differently had they known. I don't know how many people in the room have been subject to campaign finance submissions. I was very pleased, and to compliment them, as I have been, obviously, that to receive a notice from the campaign finance recently to tell me that I've got a date coming up that I have to file by. And I look at that and say, that's the kind of regulatory process that we need, because any of us who's done those things knows how easy it is to trip those deadlines, because I thought it was, well, it's not. So that's the kind of, we need people turning the lights on for us, because we all have so many things to do, and certainly they do too, but there are processes today that should make that easy for us to be able to make it all happen. We need to be mindful of timelines in the law and regulatory process. The mandatory sick time rollout that came out most recently was not good. There's stronger language that some folks will want to use, but let's just say it was not good. Where it took so long to get the regulation into place, and it's not to be a criticism of DLT or the legislature, it's just we have to recognize that these things do take time, and we can't leave it to the business community to affect the regulation in a month. That just cannot work. But that says to our business people, we don't care what your priorities are. You've got to get on to, you've got to just do it. So, and you know, to that same line, we've got to be mindful as we discuss circumstances of marijuana legalization. What kind of burden are we going to be putting on the business community as it tries to manage its personnel? I've been warned. Time to sit down. Most importantly, we need to find that right crazy idea. Is it to eliminate the minimum corporate tax? Is it to establish a master renewal license process that we learned in the meeting already exists in the state of South Carolina? We need to define our culture as business friendly. Mr. Speaker, you talked about the tax circumstance. I think that what has happened from the legislature is that we have defined our culture differently as it relates to taxes. And to both you and the President and every legislator here, we say thank you for that. You have changed our culture, and we need to do more of that to make it clear that Rhode Island is a business-friendly state. So we can work together on the specifics. We must advocate for some crazy ideas. And we must stay the course towards business friendly. You know, Leslie Tato said it well in her role at ORR. She said it's CPR, clear, predictable, reliable. That's what we're hopeful to continue to work with you on. Thank you for listening.